Kendra, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm okay.
You,
One of my daughters woke up this morning with a fever and vomiting and
oh, you got a lot going on.
diarrhea. So I hope that it's just a single episode and not turns into more. So
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about that. That's,
yeah, thank you.
it sucks when the kids are sick.
Right. Yep.
Kendra, you're not normally who I would feature here on After Prison Show, I guess is a good way to word it for a number of reasons. I don't get the opportunity to feature very many women, so I appreciate your time in regards to that. But more importantly, you don't look like anybody who would fit the mold of somebody that I would be featuring here on this channel. But unfortunately, you most certainly do.
Yes, sir.
I want to start with the beginning of how you and I got into contact, and that was through TikTok. I'm assuming you ran across me on TikTok or some videos that I had posted. Some messages occurred between the two of us, and then we ended up on a phone call. And I want to share what you had asked me first, which was why do I have such an interest and fascination with prison? And it was apparent to me that you had no idea that I personally served 7 years in prison myself.
Right.
But you and I would begin talking from there, and I would learn that you served damn near double that amount of time and almost, well, you served 13 years in prison.
I did.
And again, forgive me for being kind of judgmental here or superficial, whatever you want to say about it, but you don't even look like you've ever been in trouble. You don't look like the type that would ever be in trouble, but yet you found yourself serving a little bit more than a decade in prison down in Georgia. Am I correct about that?
Yes, in Georgia.
I don't want to put any words in your mouth. Please introduce yourself to us and tell us a little bit of your story.
Um, okay, so I'm Kendra. Um, and so when I was 19, I got in trouble, but I kind of want to go backwards into, how it all started. I'm sorry, I'm nervous.
Take your time. And
My
again,
mom, yeah, I'm trying to be. My mom was addicted to drugs when I was born, and so like the first 5 years of my life or whatever was bad because of her addiction. And so my grandmother got custody of me, but I had this huge hole in my heart because my mom and dad wasn't there. And so, and I want to kind of go into, I don't know, should I go into now as to like about living with my mom, like how bad it was, or should I wait
no,
until later?
share it however
Okay,
you want to
so
share it.
I was only like 4 and 5, and I guess maybe a little younger when I lived with her, but um my grandmother said that it was so bad that my she would have to write on the bottom of my shoes and stuff, do not return, at the store, because my mom was just like, then she would teach me how to lie. So if like we're going into the drug neighborhoods to buy crack, she would tell me, all right, Kendra, if the police pull me over, we're going to say we're looking for your dad, that he stole my purse, and
You were 5 years old.
yes. And also my stepfather had did things to me that he shouldn't have done. And so, eventually I think that my mom just saw that she, or maybe it was too hard for her to smoke crack and take care of kids. I don't know. But my grandmother ended up getting custody of me, which she was my saving grace. My grandmother was, she gave me every single birthday, every single Christmas. You know, she sat down with me every day and did schoolwork with me. She did everything that a mother should do, but I always longed for my mama. I always wanted my mama. And um, the irony of the story is my papa, my mom's stepfather, molested her. And so that was the reason what fueled her crack addiction is, she, I guess, couldn't get over the fact of what happened to her. So she ended up smoking crack for 20 years. And he never messed with me or my sister, praise the Lord. And he's, dead now. But my grandma was my saving grace. But I could remember, always wanting my mama, and one part of me be like mad at her, calling her names when I would get mad, and I was mean to my sister. She's 4 years younger than me, and I would be mean to her because I didn't know how to, take all the feelings I was going through by not having a mom or dad. And so I had this huge hole in my heart that I tried to fill throughout my whole life. And through Jesus, I had finally filled it. But before that, I could never satisfy it. But, anyways, in my teenage years, I would drink and smoke weed. Um, and then I started hanging out with my mom some when I was able to. And, and the other night in the phone call, I told you that my mom had me smoking crack. But honestly, I wanted to know what crack did to her to make her stay away. So I told her I would buy her some if she let me try it.
Mm.
And so that's how I originally, and because she was addicted to crack, I guess to her that was like a win-win for her. Like I don't know. I'm kind of like not there. I don't know how my mom's train of thought was, but so that's how I originally, and I didn't even get high off of it the first time. But hanging out with her and stuff, and she'd always tell me, and I'm just being honest. I don't want people to hate um my mom because mental health and everything is real. But she'd always say, because I guess I had a boyfriend and I was having sex with him, but she'd be like, Kendra, you can get paid for that. I don't know why you're giving it up for free, and so eventually I did get addicted to crack at 17 years old. And when I tell you it took me down through there, it took me down through there. I did things that I have never done again in my life. Um, and ultimately, it ended me up in prison. Also, my mom introduced me to this guy that was like the crack dealer, and he was 45, and I ended up getting pregnant by him. Um,
How old were you then?
17.
At
I
17
had her.
years old.
I had her on July 31st of 2000. On August the 12th, I turned 18. So 12 days after I had her, I turned 18. And I had her for 7 months. I tried to be a mom. I think because I was so young, and honestly, I wasn't really prepared to be a mom. Um, Ultimately, my decision was to place her for adoption. And so I contacted a place. They sent me profiles, and I picked who I thought would, be best for her. And so throughout the years, I received letters and updates and everything like that. And so what led me to prison was I had ultimately like two boyfriends. One did drugs and one sold drugs. Um, and the one that did drugs set up where the one that had the drugs to get robbed. Even though I personally didn't know this at the time, like I found out all this like in my discovery pack, you know. And so he sent this guy to my house to knock on the door and say that he wanted to buy something um, from me. And so when I led him to the back bedroom, he followed me back and he had a gun. And I think he just meant to scare, the guy's name was Will, scare him. But I guess he hit him. And honestly, I don't know everything. I was in the same room, but it was like fight or flight. And I flew up out of there. But he hit him with the gun. And when he did, the gun went off and hit him in the head. And he didn't even get the drugs. The drugs fell out of his hand. I had the drugs on me, but I took him out so he could serve the guy. And the pill and the stuff flew out of his hand and went behind the mirror. The guy never even got anything. And so this was at a time we didn't have cell phones. So my first response was to go find the police, you know. And so I'm like running down the road. I flag a police officer down, and they were already on the way to my area because somebody had called and said a suspicious vehicle was parked, around the corner. So then when they picked me up, I'm still not knowing the severity of the problem or, what's going on. And we get down there, and then that's when I found out that, um, he's on the way to the hospital, and it was a non-survival gunshot wound to the head. And honestly, like, I feel like if I would have known where he was shot at, because I didn't even know where. I never knew what the gun looked like. I didn't know the guy had a gun. I didn't know where, he was shot at. I would have stayed. I wouldn't have left knowing that he was shot like that. So, and then so there's no physical evidence on me whatsoever at all. It's only hearsay. The guy that set it up said that I knew about it. Um, I took it to trial. I was originally charged with felony murder, and I don't know, like a bunch of other charges, but it was a hung jury. They came back and offered me a plea. My Social Security lawyer, who was, representing me in a murder trial, told me I should take the plea, that I would do, a third of my time and get out. Well, he lied because I did 90% of my time. And so I took the charge of aggravated assault and possession of a firearm, even though I never touched the firearm, never knew nothing about the firearm. And so that started my prison sentence at 19 years old. I think I was 19. This happened in 2003. So I was 19 or 20. And I had a son by then too, who was only like a year old, that was living with his father's father. So I don't know if you want to and I wanted to say something too, and I don't know how you can put this in it, but about my mom. I remember, before, long before I was smoking crack with her, I was on cocaine. I was doing a lot of cocaine, snorting cocaine, snorting cocaine. Well, eventually, after you snort cocaine so much, you can't get any more up your nose. And she was like, "Oh, I gotta quick, I got something we could do." And so she shot me up and she killed me. Basically, I OD'd. I remember her on the phone with 911 saying, "Oh, we got the piece of meat out of her throat," and so the police never came. But that happened twice, that she shot me up with cocaine and OD'd me.
Okay, forgive me, and I know it looked like I wasn't paying attention because I grabbed my phone. I
No, it's
want to
okay.
address that. I'm looking at this picture that you sent me
Yeah.
of you in prison right here. Is it a release paper or is it an update
That
sheet?
was just a paper stating my charges and my my picture that I would wear on my ID in prison. So it has my GDC number on it. It has,
It's got
all
your,
my info.
it's got your tattoo on it.
Yeah, I know. I saw that. I was like, maybe I should.
It says tattoo small on your butt. Anyway, sorry.
Right.
Nothing to laugh about here. That was me being childish, and forgive me for that. You've shared, I mean, this whole interview has gone from people probably tuning into this saying, "What is this Martha Stewart like woman doing on the show?" And then, boom, we blow the whole lid off of this thing with everything that you've just shared with us here. Your life has been an insane just struggle with addiction. So unfortunate. Everything in relation to your mother, talking about the fact that your mother would write or your grandmother would write on the bottom of your shoes, "Do not return," so that your mother couldn't take them back to the store and exchange them for money to probably go get drugs with. There's just so much. You had shared something about your Social Security lawyer. What did you mean by that?
He represented, that's what he did for a living, was Social Security.
Oh, so he
And
had
that's
no.
what they no, that was my first, I was his first murder trial.
Oh my God, that is insane to think about. Hey, I don't normally take on cases like this. I usually do Social Security. Uh, it's your money, you need it now type of stuff. And let's go see how this works out.
Right.
Crazy situation. I'm sure that there's going to be people who have mixed views on this, but I certainly feel like you had no idea that one boyfriend was setting up another boyfriend of yours at the time.
Well,
Uh,
here's the thing: if people don't believe me, there was five people involved. It was the guy that drove the getaway car, his girlfriend, the guy who did it, and the guy that set it up. Will, the man that lost his life, gave me crack every day for free. Why would I want to take the crack that he gave me and split with all those other people when I had an addiction?
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to share your crack with nobody. You want to do it all yourself.
And forgive me for even bringing it up. I'm not trying to.
No, no, it's okay.
I've got this really bad tendency of trying to play devil's advocate. I know
It's
that that's
okay.
a bad analogy, but I always try to address every possible scenario that could be posed, or
That's
hell,
fine.
maybe even sometimes it's not even posed, but just, you know, for anybody who may think. I appreciate you shedding light on that situation. I want to talk about the boyfriend who did set this up, though.
He
How
was he got found guilty and he received a life sentence.
so for him implicating you, there was there was
N-
nothing that he gained from that, did he?
Well, he didn't implicate me. It was the guy that he sent to.
Oh,
Yeah, he sent like a real bad crackhead that and apparently I don't even think the boy knew that there was a gun in the I don't know anything about guns, but I guess you have to have one in the chamber in order for it to be shot.
I don't know
I
either, but
think
I imagine.
I think the boy thought that it was and I never met that guy before. I think he thought it was nothing in there. And apparently and this guy, the one that set it up, has been to different states. And he was a felon and he robbed people with guns all the time. Like, so this wasn't his first rodeo. It wasn't his first.
How did the boyfriend that was getting high know about the other boyfriend? Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
because we
obviously,
all hung out around each other and stuff. I don't know how he knew that, Will was supposed to have a lot of drugs because he didn't even have that. He didn't. I don't know.
well, I'm not trying to speculate here. I'm simply asking, did one boyfriend know about the other boyfriend?
Yes.
Like you made it apparent to both of them that you were
And,
dealing with both of them?
and so, and then it came to a point because, like, the guy who lost his life, he was married with a baby. The other guy, I don't know, he probably had several girlfriends, but it got to the point where they were like, I needed to choose who I wanted to be around, and I was going to choose Will, the one that lost his life, because he took care of me. The other guy was just kind of like, he wasn't even really a boyfriend. He was just like, you know, somebody to get high with and mess with.
Forgive me for sticking on this. There's just interest that I find in this situation.
Mhm.
Forgive the way that this is going to sound as well, too. You've got one boyfriend who sells, another who uses with you. At this point, you're young, you're 17 years old. It sounds like you've got a full-fledged addiction problem going on at this point. What did this boyfriend who sold see in you? It just sounds like that wouldn't be a situation that he would want to have a girlfriend who was an addict
I'm
when he's
not
not
really
used.
sure, but he would stay away from his wife and want to hang around me. He even one time wanted to convince me to move in with him and his wife. Like, I'm not really sure what he saw in me.
And
Um,
I'm not trying to put you down in any type of a way.
oh no, no,
And
it's okay.
and that was also a point that I had missed, uh, was the fact that he was married. So,
Yeah,
you're this little young thing. I'm thinking maybe you're boosting for him, or, he's got you on
nothing. I'm
mission.
doing nothing for him, but using his, doing his drugs basically.
This may be a little too much. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but you're somebody who uses, he's somebody who sells. In cases like that, from, I was in the life for a long time. Hey, if you've got a girl with you who's really about that, she can hold those drugs for you. Was that
Yes.
okay?
I mean, I do remember like times, if we was driving in the car, he would ask me to hold for him because he was like, I can get you out of jail quicker than me because you've never been to jail. Because up
Okay.
until that point, I had never been in any trouble.
One final thing in relation to that situation, like what level of a dealer was this guy? Was he low level? Was he carrying weight?
Low level, nothing. I
So
mean, it was nobody big at all.
So how much do you think, this guy kept on him at a time when the robbery occurred? Are we talking like an 8 ball, an ounce at most? Like how much are we talking about here
An ounce
probably?
at most.
So this guy's doing life for
And
next
the
to
other guy
nothing.
that, right, both of them are doing life. The guy that set it up and the guy that came to my house to rob Will. Yep, they both. And I don't know if they've gotten out. You know, I don't know. But like I don't and honestly, my crime happened so long ago. I think everything's archived, but like if anybody can dig and find out or whatever, there is no evidence on me whatsoever at all besides the guy that came to my house saying that I knew that that situation was going to take place.
Well,
So,
it's an unfortunate situation.
it is
It's unfortunate that the guy lost his life in this situation.
correct.
And I'm sure
And the son had to grow up without a daddy and the wife, like it is very sad.
I'm sure in the eyes of the state, it probably seemed plausible that you did orchestrate or set the thing up, and then you end up going to prison for 13 years. I don't
Yes.
personally believe that that's the case. You've shared it the way that you've shared it, but maybe according to the state, that's how it all played out, especially with this guy implicating you as being aware of the situation being set up. Um, you do 13 years in prison. I do want to speak on your prison experience and ask you to share about that a little bit here. But as we do so, one other thought that comes to mind, the other boyfriend who set it up, did he ever try to reach out to you while you were in prison?
No.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your prison experience. You were 19 years old when you're going to prison. You were young. You were down in the state of Georgia, correct?
Yes.
I don't know a whole lot about the South in terms of the judicial system, except what I see on social media these days, but I've always known it's a pretty rough place to serve time. What's it like in a women's prison at 19 years old down in the state of Georgia?
Um, well, my first 5 years, I was at Pulaski State Prison, and it's kind of like a cottage campus. It was new at the time. Very strict. They were very very strict. And so, but also the first half of my prison sentence, I didn't care. I was mad. I did what I wanted to do. I would go to lockdown. I would let write me up. I don't care. Um, I I don't know. Like I just had a lot of anger in me. But I went to therapy, and I guess I just matured. And so, but after 5 years of being there, I got transferred to another prison called Alto, which was the total polar opposite of Pulaski. So it was like, at Pulaski you had waxed floors and you ironed your uniforms, and it was very nice and tidy. And then Alto is there's no irons. The floor is nasty. People are smoking cigarettes in the dorm, and so I was in like a complete culture shock. Um, And so, but then I started taking groups and I got my GED, and I took a class in plumbing, and I really got to, grow up there. And I don't know, prison is crazy. That's all I can say, like I've seen a lot of crazy stuff in there. But also, like prison is way better than jail. In
Yeah.
jail you don't get to do anything. Prison is like its own little town. So,
Let me ask you this. I don't mean to cut
okay.
you off, but I
No,
want to
you're
give
fine.
you some more talking points. And where I'm going with this next line of questioning, you don't have to answer if you don't feel comfortable doing so, but there's a reason for this. I'm working with another woman currently. Her name is Kelly. She did 30 years in prison. I've been asking her about relationships in prison because one main difference that I'm seeing between men's prison and women's prison is that in women's prison, it seems like um, relationships and girlfriends is way more commonplace than that type of stuff. In men's prison, it's a lot more taboo.
Right.
In women's prison, it just seems like more of an everyday occurrence. Were there a lot of girlfriend relationships taking place down during the time that you were serving? And also, did you have any girlfriends while you were in prison?
Yes and yes. I
Okay.
mean, I kind of, I just, um, and even though I am not gay, you know, I was before prison and in prison. I think it was just kind of like, I was lost, I was lost. I was just, especially before prison, I was just like doing whatever, for attention or whatever. But I did have a girlfriend in there for 5 years. And I
And
think it's just, like for, because you need a companion, you need somebody. I needed Jesus, but I didn't know that. So I was, I had a girlfriend. So
thank you for answering it.
yes.
And I want to share with you, it was the exact same answer that I got from the other woman. Gay for the stay is a way that it's been referred to as. It may seem a little derogatory, and I don't mean it like that, but it's interesting that you share the same thing. Hey, you weren't even, you're not gay, but it's maybe a culture of women's prison, and women are more emotional creatures.
Yeah.
Women seem like they're more emotional creatures that, you know, why that could potentially take place. But there's somewhere else I want to go with this.
Okay.
You talk about, or you think about, assaults taking place in prison. In men's prison, it's a scary thing to think about. In women's prisons, relationships are a lot more commonplace. But is there a line? I'm trying to think of how I want to word this. You weren't gay going to prison. Many women aren't who go into prison, but yet they find themselves in relationships. Did you ever see relationships being forced on somebody, like, yo, you're going to be my girl type of stuff? And
No,
that could borderline
no,
be
but I
like a,
did hear, like when I went to, like in jail before I went to prison, I did hear like, hey, if you see a honey bun on your bed, don't take it, or something like
really?
that.
Wow. So
Yeah, but
we've got the candy bar analogy on the pillow. That's wild that in women's prison down south they say similar things.
yeah, but I
You
mean, it was not that I know of. I've heard now that the prisons that I mentioned are very bad. I actually just did an article where they're saying that a gang member assaulted and raped a girl in the prison. But when I served time, it was nothing like that. Also, I was never in fear of my life, but I am kind of the type, or was the type that, I didn't care. If you wanted the heat, I was gonna give it to you, but I never seen nobody ever scared me in there. I didn't never see anybody like harassing, or the most you saw was like a girlfriend getting mad at another girlfriend and them fighting over it, or
And that's a big difference between men's prison and women's prison. The violence
right.
seems a lot more prevalent at the men's prison versus the women's prison. I want to ask you this: were knives at all? Did you ever see any shanks or anything like that?
No.
See, that's another. It's just interesting to me. The other woman shared the same experience. The violence is not as commonplace, and if it is taking place, it's fights over girlfriends or other mundane things, never really all that out of control. And then you're reading a story that sounds unusual in comparison to the way that things normally would be
Right.
in there.
And my son, I don't know if you want to, hit on this later, but my son just did 2 years in a Georgia prison. I have a 22-year-old. And at the prison that he was just at, there's been 2 or 3 killings in just the past month.
Wow.
And it's a lot of the gang versus gang. Like if you go in there and you don't claim a gang, um, then you're bound to, anything happening to you.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty scary to think about.
Right.
You do 13 years in prison. You're released, and the interesting thing about that is you come home from prison the same year that I'm released. You come home in 2015.
I think we actually came home either a month apart or in the same month.
Wait, what month did you come home?
I think I got out in it was either September or October. So,
I got out October 13th, 2015. You don't
well,
remember your release date?
no, I mean it was
Good
the
for you.
20th. I think it was like October 20th or September 20th.
People might find that strange. I don't. I mean, it's probably more strange that I remember mine, but I talk about prison every single day. So it's good that you don't remember yours. But you get released from prison, your life is totally different now. Talk about your life after prison.
Well, I want to say too that I had to do a whole year in TC, which is Transitional Center in Atlanta. Um, and so I had to walk the streets of Atlanta for a whole year. And I was so against drugs. I don't know. I was very against drugs and just, like I never did anything wrong. So I worked the whole time, in Atlanta.
Oh my
Um,
God.
yeah, which is horrible for those girls that they just drop off at 5 points and then you got to catch the bus to your job. I mean, and there's men that prey on those girls every day.
I'm glad that you mentioned that right there, talking about men preying on girls, because I completely dropped the ball here. There is another whole dynamic to your prison experience that I forgot to mention that I want to go back to. So forgive me
Okay.
for bouncing around a little bit here. Uh, Prison pen pals are a huge thing in the women's side of serving time. You shared with me about that in the phone call that we had prior to doing this interview about something that your mother did for you, as a matter of fact, when you ended up going to prison, correct?
Yes. So it was a guy, actually, it's crazy. The man used to change my diapers when I was little. Um,
That is so weird.
yeah, weird, isn't it? And so, but anyways, he ended up wanting to help me. This was like my mom like gave me his number right before I sorry, my friends like messaging me right before I went to prison. And so he like as soon as I got to prison, he got on my visitation list. He was bringing my little son to see me. He was like 2 or 3. He was bringing my dad to see me, and he took care of me the majority of my time in prison.
Can we term him the way that you termed him?
Sugar daddy.
He was your sugar daddy while you were
Yeah.
in prison. But this was so much deeper than that, uh, because when you were released, talk about what happened when you were released with this man.
Okay. So
He was there to pick you up.
he picked me up from Atlanta, TC, and on the way from Atlanta to Augusta, he had already arranged this. We stopped at a courthouse and got married at some little town. I don't even know the town. Um, and it was annulled, so I don't know if that counts, as a marriage or not. But basically, I feel like he thought if he married me, he could keep me. And so I did go to his house. I got a job the first week at a place called Giuseppe's. It's like an authentic Italian restaurant. I loved it. And I could not live with Larry. He was retired military. He was very controlling, very didn't want me to have Facebook. Just
Let's
so I
talk.
ended up a guy that I knew
Sorry.
from that was okay, a guy I knew of from my past, hit me up wanting to take me out to eat, and I was like very standoffish. I was like, what for? Anyways, we ended up getting together. We got married. We had 3 children. So I have a 8-year-old son, twin girls that are 6. And I also, in between that, had a miscarriage, which, I never knew nothing about miscarriages. I just thought you got pregnant and had a baby. So, but, also a really big part of my story is when I was pregnant with my son, I was having gallbladder attacks like every month. The doctors was prescribing me pain pills. I had no idea that you could get addicted to pain pills. So 6 months, 8 months into using pain pills, I'm addicted at this point to the point that is starting to become noticeable, you know. And so I tried to withdraw off of them myself, but I couldn't. And I went to the methadone clinic. And I'm going to be honest, that first dose of methadone relieved everything, you know, the elephant on my chest, all that. And the nurse one day gave me double my amount, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should go tell them. I didn't want to get the lady in trouble. I didn't want to overdose on methadone. You know, I didn't know what to do. So I told this girl, I was like, hey, the nurse gave me too much. And she was like, would you do a little speed? And I was like, no, I don't, you know, do anything, because I was so against drugs, right? So she gave me a little bit. She was like, just do a little bit and you'll be okay. I didn't do it. When I got to my road, it was in a dollar bill. I opened the dollar bill, crumbled it into the ground. The next day, another girl was like, you know, and I started doing meth. And so I completely went off of methadone onto meth. And I'm going to tell you what, it was almost like somebody throwing that ball at the person sitting in the water tank, and how, you know, when they hit it and he goes down,
Yeah.
that was me. I went down, I lost everything. My husband hired a lawyer, and, you know, they said that I was, you know, I couldn't be around my kids. I couldn't be around my car. I had to leave here. I mean, I went, I went down, and I was um, doing IV meth for like 2 years. But by the grace of God, the Lord, I'm saved. He changed me. You know, I'm back home. Yes, he did divorce me. I'm with my children. So I've been through it. You know, but I'm strong, you know, and I'm a fighter.
Well, good for you. All of that happened after you got released from prison.
Yes.
And, I'm sorry to hear the struggle that you've had, but you have so much to be sober for: your children, your
We have a small
husband.
farm down here in South Georgia. Y'all can look us up on Facebook. It's Gloryland Farms. I homeschool my children. I have a great church family, which is my family, because I don't have any family. All my family is dead beside, you know, my sister, but unfortunately, she's on drugs. And so I, you know, can't be around her. And then I have an aunt that's in her 70s that doesn't even live near me. But, you know, so my church family is my family. So,
And that's very important to you, and something that you really wanted to mention in this. And I want to give you the opportunity to do so now, to
thank you.
talk about the fact that it was through religion that you found your way.
You know, I found myself, after being on meth for like 2 years, I found, you know, like I wanted to die. I hated everyone. Honestly, I was living hell on earth. And you know, I had thought I was saved and stuff before, but I wasn't. And so I, you know, I cried out to God. I went to this place, not too far from me. It was like a 4 month inpatient Christian rehab for free. And it changed my life. You know, they were preaching one day and, you know, said about going to hell if you die. And I asked the Lord in my heart, and I'm going to tell you what, He has changed me forever. I am set free. I'm no longer who Kendra used to be. I used to smoke cigarettes. I don't smoke anymore. I used to vape. I don't vape anymore. I used to cuss. I don't cuss anymore. I used to think dirty jokes were funny. I don't. I mean, when I tell you he has changed everything about me, I used to drink Dr. Pepper. Now I drink Diet Coke. I mean, that's just the, you know what I'm saying? Like, he has changed everything about me. And I know I am totally set free. The devil can never tempt me with drugs again. Like, I mean, he's real, you know?
Good for
So,
you. For everybody who finds their way after being down so far, great analogy that you used, like the guy in the dunking tank, going that far down with it. Everybody finds, if people are fortunate enough to find their way, for everybody it's different. For a lot of people, it is finding religion and purpose through that. and that has been your purpose and has given you a new outlook on life. You know, you have an amazing life after incarceration and so much more that we could share in relation to your story. But I think that we're at a pretty good point of wrapping this up. I do want to mention one other thing. It's kind of off topic. Well, actually, maybe it's not. I mean, you do content on social media. You've got a TikTok account. If you want me
I
to incorporate that, I
Yes.
will link that
Okay.
so people can go and follow you. There's more that you want to be doing with that. You live on a farm. You guys are basically like trying to get to the homesteading type of thing, right? Or are you
Yeah,
doing that
we
already?
believe, and the reason for starting the homestead is, I don't know if everybody knows or not, but the government and all the stuff that they put in our food, is killing us, causing inflammation, causing all these diseases that we have. And so we want to live off the land as much as possible to, to eat good, to, our children love all the animals, that we have. I was going to say also, like, if people wanted to follow me on TikTok, I could start doing more in depth videos on my story, because about my son, Justin, he's in county jail right now. He's not saved, after doing 2 years, kind of find out he has more charges. And then he has to go back to county. But, he grew up with his mother in prison. His dad didn't want him. His dad was a deadbeat dad, took him to defects and dropped him off. And so he was raised in group home.
No, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Not only could you be showcasing more of your story over there, which I hope that you will,
Yeah.
but let me share with you. I told my wife about the opportunity to interview you and the fact that you live on a homestead, and my wife told me about something I'd never even heard of. You've probably heard of it. Have you heard of like Ballerina Farms?
Yeah, I do know she is.
She is like 10 million followers on Instagram, and
Yeah.
all of their videos about their homestead look like an episode of Yellowstone or something like that.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's like the epic of Homestead.
You could do something like that.
Yeah.
You guys have it going on down there. People love that type of content. Hey, the prison genre, it's not what it once was, but everybody does have a story and deserves to share their story. I hope that you will do that. But people love living off the grid type content too. That's what you guys are somewhat doing. And I encourage you to share more about that as well.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. But ultimately, Kendra, it's a pleasure to get this opportunity to interview you. I hope that we're able to remain in contact. I hope that this video is able to get a lot of attention, and that attention leads to people coming to follow you over on TikTok, which I think that they should. I think you've got a lot more to share. We barely even touched on the tip of the
Right.
iceberg here. And I appreciate your time.
And I was just gonna say, like, I didn't do this video or interview or reach out to you for like attention or fame or anything like that. I wanted to do it to show people that you don't have to be a victim of your circumstance or anything, that you can overcome and have a good life, and you know no matter what has happened to you. And that was the reason for sharing my story, is because I wanted people to see that even though my life was horrible at times and everything, that you know Jesus ultimately changed everything for me. So, and he can do it for you too.
Well, I appreciate you sharing all that you have. How do you feel about this? You feel like it went pretty well?
Yeah, my heart's like beating fast and stuff.
You did
Like, and I
great.
also, like, I have overcome the situation with happened with Will and stuff. And so I don't want people to think like I downplayed that situation whatsoever at all. But like, I have come to terms and, you know, gotten over, and I'm pretty sure that his family has never gotten over and come to terms. And it's a very sad, unfortunate situation that happened.
Well,
So
you weren't the one that did it, so it's just a shame that you got implicated in it. People will have their views on that. I'm sure I'm seeing that in relation to another woman that had a murder charge, but you didn't get convicted of murder. You got convicted of aggravated assault
right.
and possession of a firearm when you never even touched the gun. So crazy how the
Georgia
justice
law. Yeah.
Crazy how the justice system works. Look, Kendra, I appreciate your time. I'm going to look forward to talking with you again real soon. And
Okay.
take care.
Thank you.